Hi guys, exeter-rider here. This week it's all about the Benelli Tornado 125, or otherwise known as the TNT. Right, it's not going to be too many problems getting on this one. As you lot may know, I did actually own a Grom at one point, so instantly puts a smile on your face, these bikes. Now, most of you watching this are going to be on L plates in many cases. What's it like as a learner bike? As a 125cc? Well, to be honest, they're all pretty much the same anyway. They're all going to be about the same power. They're all limited in that respect. And this one is going to be a good learning vehicle. It's easy to ride. These bikes are ultimately they're smilers, as I call them. They put a smile on your face and everyone else's face as well. Seating position is okay. It might be a small bike, but when you're actually on it, don't give you any problems. And the peg height is nice. I've still got a nice angle on my legs. Road presence, you're not far off a normal bike really. You still got a relatively high, or standard should I say, seat height, which I'll put up on the screen now. So you're not much different than any other bike. You're just a little bit shorter in length, and everything else is much the same really. So, and one thing I remember about my Grom is how easy it is to filter on these bikes. It's an absolute piece of cake. Yeah, so I owned my Grom for about 18 months, I think I had a Grom for. Why did I get it? I don't know. I just fancied something that wasn't too serious, to be perfectly frank. I wanted something that was good at filtering in the city. Something that cost me next to nothing, which, as these bikes, you know, these you easily get over 100 miles to the gallon on one of these. 20 pounds tax per year. So a lot to be said for it really, having a 125. And it's strange that I get to ride all these bikes all the time, and when I go on the less powered bikes, I just have just as much fun. With these little mini bikes as well, they encourage you to do things that you wouldn't normally do on a normal sized bike. And what I mean by that is that you do feel like you can stunt more and take it less seriously. Of course, you should always take them seriously, right? They are still, if you come off at 55 miles an hour on this bike, it's going to be like coming off 55 miles an hour on a bigger bike. You know, you're still going to fly off at the same speed. That's what I'm talking about. But you just feel you can doss around with it a bit more, take it down the car park and do things which I'm not even going to advise. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. So compared to the Grom, and I am going to compare it because it's the closest rival that it's got, obviously it's a lot cheaper and it's a 5-speed. And when I had my Mark 1 Grom, I did find that you get to 4th and you get to about 40 miles an hour and you think, oh, I need another gear. Whereas with this one, it's not too bad. You don't really get that. We mustn't take away either how practical these bikes are. There's a lot to be said for little bikes like this. I mean, they're easy to store if you live in a flat or something and you got a little hallway you have to put your bike in, then you can do. Not everybody's got garages. There you go, look, indicated 55 there. Flat out, 5th gear. So when you get to 50, there is quite a lot of vibration. But I guess if you're a youngster, you wouldn't really care about that anyway. But as with all 125s, you will get about 60, 62, 63 out of these bikes. Suspension wise, this is a lot softer than the Groms. The Groms was very rattly, I found, very jarring, and certainly in the UK we got an issue with potholes these days, and God, you certainly knew it if you hit one of them, I tell you. Bear in mind that it's got small wheels as well, these bikes. It's quite swish, to be honest with you. It's quite good suspension. The seat is a little bit, you know, it will start to ache your bum a bit after a while. Brakes are surprisingly good, actually. I wasn't expecting them to be that good, but they are pretty good. And these bikes are surprisingly stable, actually. You would have thought that with such small wheels you might get a lot of wobble like you get with the scooters, but you don't with this at all. It's a very, very stable machine. Yeah, so if you just pass your testing with your on L plates and you're a youngster, you're going to have a whale of a time on this bike, I can assure you of that. I would have loved this when I first passed my test, my CBT or whatever. Right, let's do the walk round here today, I think, somewhere. Right, okay, so to start with on the walk round, typical Benelli, as always. It's always a mass styling exercise with them, isn't it? We got a beautiful exhaust here, which looks really good. We've got a small pillion seat on the back here, which most of you will be riding this on L plates, so that's going to be rarely used. Will it pull a passenger okay? Yes, it probably would. It's going to have an impact on the performance, of course it is. It's a 125, so dashboard is as you would expect. So we've got the rev counter there, fuel, miles per hour, how many miles it's done. This one's done 281, and this clock there as well. Lighting wise, we got LEDs on the front with the indicators and the main headlight, and on the back we've got LEDs as well, including built-in indicators on the left and right hand side of the back cowl there. Okay, so on the handlebars on the right we've got the kill switch, hazards, which is unusual for a 125 to have hazards actually, and the start button. On the left we've got the pass button over here. I can't really see you using that too often, but high and low beam, indicators which are quite good, and a horn. So overall this is going to be a bike that's going to be built for learner riders, and maybe a second bike. For that it does the job really well. It is what it is. It's a micro bike or a small bike, whatever you want to call it, but it's going to be easy to store. You know, if storage is a problem, then if you haven't got much room in the garage, for example, then this is going to slot in quite nicely. Okay, so this bike at the time of filming is £2,200 on the road. Bearing in mind it is a learner legal bike, so you will have it and you will probably sell it, you know, within a couple of years. It's quite competitive. Seating position is quite good. It's very easy to get on, of course, like so. Probably look quite small on it. And it's all nicely set out. We've got the brake lever here, which is easy to push. Brakes are surprisingly good. I've heard some people say that the brakes aren't very good, and in all honesty I haven't got a problem with them at all, but they are the combined braking, so when you put the rear brake on, I believe that both of them work in unison. You don't really notice that actually. I have owned a bike which has had the combined braking, and it's very intrusive, but this one isn't. You don't really notice it, and I still find myself using a bit of back brake and a bit of front brake. Works very well, very good. I think it's one of those bikes really that once you own one of these, you know, like when I owned my Grom, I do miss it a bit really. I miss the simplicity of it, going through the traffic, and just, you know, the ease of storage in the garage, and you know, it's just quite a novelty bike really, but at the same time it is very practical. They do make a lot of sense, these smaller bikes, just for town usage and, you know, popping into town and going to work and things like that. So fuel wise, you can fill this thing up probably £3 or £4 and it'll last you about 100 miles. Incredibly cheap to run. Tax in the UK for road tax is £20, which again is pocket money these days, isn't it? And actually to buy, you know, £2,200 on the road is incredibly cheap, and it's brilliant. That's such a good price for, you know, quite a high spec bike in many ways. I mean, when I say high spec, you won't need to get a nicer exhaust, will you? It's got the rear fender here, so when all the water's flicking up, it doesn't flick up your back. It's got the license plate on the back, which only you know, some higher spec machines have. Overall, it's a good little bike. Right, let's get on and have another ride. So, give you some specs. This bike pushes out 11 horsepower at 9,500. It covers 10 newton meters of torque at 7,000, and it's a 5-speed box, and it's 2,200 on the road. Just some quick specs there for you. Actually, before we go too far, let's have a little listen to the exhaust. Oh, you've got to hold in the clutch on these bikes to get them running. Yes, it sounds alright, doesn't it? It's not bad. Alright, let's go. Okay, so to do a UE on these bikes, it's easy enough. I've got a very tight turning circle due to the tight wheelbase. Mirrors, they're okay. Got a good shot on my shoulders. Yeah, I would say they're kind of just alright, really. They do the job. You have to look around a bit. It's good to get out on a little mini bike again, though. Awesome fun. But now, what I mean is, it's so light and flickable. You just feel in control of it all the time. I'm quite lucky that I can ride these bikes, and it's the second 125 I've tried in the last sort of 6 months, and I often wonder to myself, if you're just doing stuff around town, you don't really need anything else than a 125, really. It's nice having that extra power and the versatility. You know, you can do more motorway work and highway work with something a bit more powerful, of course. But if you're just doing city work all the time, then these 125s do a good job of it. Like I say, it's just nice riding around without having to, well, like on my NC, you've got to plan every move. Every manoeuvre that you do, you've got to think about it. Whereas with these, you just rock up as and when. As well, but I do know, and I found this with my Grom actually, that these small bikes, they do hold their price. They don't depreciate very quickly. For example, I bought my Grom for about 1,400 quid. And I sold it a little while later, well, 18 months later, shall I say. I think it's for about 1,100 or something like that. Maybe it was more than that, but yeah, I done really well on it anyway. Again, here we go again. Filtering demon that these bikes are. Super, isn't it? Brilliant. Anyway, I've got to get the bike back now. Thank you very much for watching this. If it's the first time to the channel, give it a like if you would be so kind, and also subscribe as well. That does help me a lot if you subscribe. It's a little effort for you and makes a huge difference to me. So I just want to thank CMS for the bike. It's been an interesting one. Great to get back on a small bike again. They sell loads and loads of stuff there, good for parts, aftermarket accessories, and Royal Enfields and all that they sell. So thank you very much to them. If it's the first time to the channel, give it a big like if you would, that'd be fantastic. And yeah, subscribe. Thank you, and I will see you next week. Cheers, guys.